Hello, everybody. Welcome to Book It Vince, the wrestling booking dream match podcast on the internet. I'm one of your hosts, Martin Bennett, and with me, as always, is the best there was, the best there ever will be, Anthony Hall.
Wow, such honor to be bestowed.
The best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. I missed one.
To be bestowed that moniker. Such honor.
How you doing, Anthony?
I'm all right, man. How you doing?
I'm good, because we got a special episode today. If you can see by the title, we are going to be deciding who is the greatest wrestling manager of all time. And this is just going to be a little fun one. But before we get into that, if you like what we do here on the podcast, please follow or subscribe to the podcast on whatever podcast platform you get your podcasts on. Or come over to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/UnknownError to watch the video version. Also, we got some other cool stuff coming out soon. So subscribe for more on that. And at the end of the show, we answer viewer questions. We do a match recommendation of the week. So if you want to get involved with those, please go over to our website, UnknownErrorFilms.com/bookevents, submit a question, check out the other episodes. Have a good time. All right. So Anthony.
Yes.
So we're doing this today because we are going to be putting out very soon the second season of our YouTube show, The Bracketeers, which if people don't know, on YouTube, we have the show called The Bracketeers, where a bunch of us from the Unknown Error crew, some friends, some guests, sit down and discuss what we think is the best of a certain subject. Season 1 came out earlier this year. The pandemic completely screwed my... I was going to say last year. I'm like, wait, it wasn't last year. It was earlier this year because we filmed it just before we went into quarantine. And that one, season 1 was what was the greatest movie franchise of all time. The season 2 is coming out soon, and we're deciding what's the best N64 games of all time. And we got some opinions, and it's going to be a good time. So you definitely want to tune into that. So we thought today, why don't we do our own bracket that's wrestling related? And I thought, let's do who is the greatest wrestling manager of all time. Kind of like, it's not a dream match, but I don't think that we would really ever book a manager into something unless we decide to do like a manager battle royale or something like that. Maybe we'll do that eventually in the future. But so what we are referencing is the Sportsters top 10 greatest WWE managers of all time. But I don't know how many not WWE managers there are. Also, a lot of these people on here have managed in other promotions. So, and we're not doing the list verbatim. We did remove 2 people, mostly because we don't really know too much about them, or we don't think that they are up to snuff with these people. So we did remove Vicky Guerrero from the list. Shout outs to Vicky. You great.
Excuse me.
Shout out to Vicky Guerrero, but does her managing Edge and Dolph Ziggler really? We both kind of felt that way. And then one person that was on a bunch of top 10 lists was Freddie Blassie. I recognize, he was of, WWF, Iron Sheik, Nikola Volkov, that old school era, but we don't really know him to talk about him, so...
Because we're filthy casuals who really only know about post-2000s wrestling.
I mean, there's people on this list who aren't post-2000s wrestling, but it's just, we know more about some of these people than we know about, like, the old school people, so...
We're bad wrestling fans. Oh no.
No, I don't think so. So our top 8 in order, and the way that we're doing this is it's a seeded bracket based on the Sportsers list. So number 1 will go against number 8 and so on and so forth until we reach, there could be an underdog. Who knows? So our list is Bobby the Brain Heenan, Paul Heyman, Paul Bearer, Jim Cornette, Jimmy Hart, Miss Elizabeth, Paul Ellering, and Sensational Sherry. So, Anthony, you ready to get into this?
Yeah, let's go.
The first matchup.
Let's do it.
Is going to be interesting. It's Bobby the Brain Heenan versus Sensational Sherry. So, Bobby the Brain Heenan, see, this is what I was talking about when it's like, some of these people aren't post-2000. Bobby the Brain Heenan is not post-2000. But, man, the Brain, is probably the greatest manager of all time.
Yeah.
But, it's... I just remember what I remember most about Bobby the Brain is that he was, he did it all. He was commentary. He was funny. He was his antics on Monday Night Raw of like getting fired, trying to come back in. Those always make the highlight reels of like him dressing up as a woman and trying to come in and but for who he managed, I mean, he managed all the old school guys. He managed Andre the Giant. He managed, who else did he manage?
It was like a whole family of people, no? Is that what it was called? Like the family?
Need to make sure we can pull up specifics about these these guys. King Kong Bundy.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Heenan family was what it was called. It was that stable.
Who was all in the stable? I want to know. This will. Okay. Here we go. The Heenan family included Stud, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, King Kong Bundy, Andre the Giant, High Chief Civi Affy, the Brainbusters, former Horseman members Arn Anderson and Tully, the Ravishing Rick Rude, Harley Race.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Kurt Hennig.
Nice, yeah.
The Brooklyn Brawler. Yeah, he basically just had like the best people ever. So I mean, like I agree. Like it's like him being flexible, doing commentary.
He managed Ric Flair at one time. He managed all these old school dudes. It was great. And yeah, he was funny. He was serious. He was the one of the very first, like, in my opinion, like all the managers at that point were either people like, Mr. Fuji,
Mr. Fuji,
or just very serious kind of managers. While Bobby the Brain Heenan was like, he was the first person, in my opinion, that I can see being like getting heel heat for being like, what we refer to as a chicken shit heel.
Yeah.
So, but then we got Sensational Sherry on the other side, which, she's at the bottom of the list, and it's mostly just because it was when she was with Randy Savage and Ted DiBiase.
Okay.
But
I think maybe just like based on sheer talent managed by Bobby the Brain Heenan, I think he would win this.
She also
matchup.
I will say, sorry, totally forgot about this. She managed Shawn Michaels after he left the Rockers.
Right.
So, she was the person that coined him as the sexy boy.
Sexy boy. Not your boy toy.
Oh, and fun fact, fun fact is that she actually sung Shawn Michaels' theme song originally, and then after she left the WWE, they're like, "Who's gonna sing the song?" And then they're like, "Shawn, you have to sing your own theme song now."
Oh, that's great.
But
that's hilarious.
But yeah,
was the original version the same?
Yeah, it was the same song. It was just that it was Sherry singing it instead of Shawn.
Oh, okay.
But I would say I remember Sensational Sherry more as like as a wrestler than a manager. But I guess, you know, she made most of her big moments as managing people like Randy Savage when, because she managed Randy Savage when he left Miss Elizabeth.
Oh, right. Yes.
And then being in with Ted DiBiase and the $1 Million Man Club. And then, with Shawn that's classic because that was really like Shawn's big break. And the fact that that's then where he termed the Heartbreak Kid and the Heartbreak Kid Hotel and all that stuff. So.
All right. I mean,
but
both managers, very illustrious resumes, but you really can't have an upset this early. Like, it has to be Bobby the Brain.
I would say it's definitely Bobby the Brain.
So Bobby advances in the bracket.
All right, round 2.
Okay.
We have number 4 seed versus number 5 seed.
Oh, this is going to be a toughie.
We had Jim Cornette.
Okay.
Going against Jimmy Hart. Mouth of the South.
Wow.
So, I mean, Jim Cornette is famous for a lot of other stuff outside of managing. I mean, he was a writer.
Yeah.
He's also a very controversial figure.
I don't think he's a very good person.
He's also not a very good person. But in terms of his, I mean, he also ran, his own promotion, Smoky Mountain Wrestling.
Right.
Where he found people like Chris Jericho, Kane, who else is on?
Some of the stars that we know and love from the era of wrestling we are familiar with.
He had what's called Camp Cornette, and I am referring to this page here just because I need to remember this. Camp Cornette, Owen Hart, Vader, British Bulldog.
Oh, that's what a trio, truly.
So he also Midnight Express. There's another big one. And then he worked with a lot of people in OVW to help bring them up. Like Batista,
Big
John
time,
Cena, Randy Orton.
Big time development guy, that Jim Cornette.
Yeah. So, you know, I'll give Jim Cornette credit of like, he is a very influential person when it came to wrestling managers because of the fact that he was more of a booker in a lot of those regards, and then he became a writer in WWE. He became a producer, so then it made sense why he was kind of alongside people to help push them and to help get them better. But Anthony, tell me about Jimmy Hart.
Oh, well, let me
South, baby.
Oh, let me tell you all the things I know about him. He has funny hair. He often wears glasses.
He does, yes.
And think sometimes has a guitar.
No. He managed Honky Tonk Man.
Oh, right. There we go.
He managed Honky Tonk Man, Hulk Hogan.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Greg the Valentine Hammer. I mean, he was also with the Hart Foundation.
Right.
He was with a lot of like random people. He was with a lot of tag teams. So, I mean, the most notable ones are Honky Tonk Man, Hulk Hogan, and the Hart Foundation.
Okay.
Like when I think of the Hart Foundation, I mean, he's not an official Hart.
Yes. Not by blood.
But he's there. He's always there. So.
Does he have a megaphone? Mm-hmm. Okay, that's him. Okay. I just like I think of him and I'm like the only thing that ever like kind of like crosses my mind because I'm not an old school wrestling head is that like I just picture him wearing funny suits.
He wears funny suits, he has glasses, he has long hair, and he has a megaphone.
Yeah, and just generally being old and talking loudly.
He's still kicking around though. That's the one thing I will say is Jimmy Hart is still kicking around. He does the indie scene. He makes special guest appearances, and no one wants to talk to Jim Cornette. So,
yeah, I
will say I like Jim Cornette stuff on Dark Side of the Ring, but that's just because he's very knowledgeable about stuff. But he's very opinionated.
Yeah, he's very very candid. When it comes to those things. I mean, I don't really know anything about Jimmy Hart, really.
I mean, but when it comes to manager, who do you immediately go, yeah, that's a manager? I
mean, him, probably.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
Because he has a megaphone. And
it's also a thing of like a lot of the people on this list aren't characters.
That's true, and he is like a fully fleshed out gimmick. I can't in good faith advance him over Jim Cornette though. I mean, just like it doesn't. Really? I can't do it. Marty.
I would so put Jimmy Hart over Jim Cornette.
Oh, but think about all the people that we just listed off that Jim Cornette managed and brought up. Mamma mia!
But. More famous than Jimmy, the Mouth of the South Hart?
I mean, for the sake of making the bracket crazy, we could do it. We could advance him. Let's see who Jimmy Hart goes up against in the next round. I'm willing to make that concession.
How about this? In this bracket, we each get a fall on the sword moment. We're like, nope, this is the one I'm pushing it.
Oh, I can't wait to use mine. Okay, yeah, go ahead. Do it. Use it now if you want.
Oh, God, no, you can't use it for the final.
Oh, no, I won't.
But so...
Too bad Vicky Guerrero's not in this anymore. It's like, I can't push her to the end.
But so... Well, what are we saying? Jimmy Hart or Jim Cornette?
I guess if you're gonna fall on the sword on this one...
No, I'm not falling on the sword for this one.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know.
Should we flip?
Yeah, let's just do a coin flip because, like, I think Jim.
What a great.
Yeah.
What a great form of democracy is a coin flip.
Yeah. Well, because, like, I think Jim Cornette is just like so impressive in terms of like, the people that he worked with and the people that came up.
I just don't have like if I didn't list all of that, would you have known that?
I knew about like some of the developmental stuff, like the OVW guys, but I didn't really know much about like the Smoky Mountain Wrestling.
I just have like, for me, it's like memorable. And to me, when I think of like general managers, I go, yeah, Jimmy Hart. Because that's all that he was. While Jim Cornette, I go, oh, he was a writer, he was a producer and stuff. Oh, yeah. Right. And then he did do.
Maybe I'm just
and then
giving
he did
Jim
commentary,
Cornette.
And then he did all this other stuff.
Yeah.
But like when I think of like managers, I go Jimmy Hart because
that's true. I'm just giving Jim Cornette more credit, I think, because of all the other stuff that he did. But this is a manager bracket, so let us advance a manager, a proper manager.
So Jimmy Hart.
Jimmy Hart.
All right. Sorry, Jim Cornette. Not sorry.
Yeah. Well.
All right. We got number 3 seed.
Yeah.
Paul Bearer.
Yeah.
Versus number 6 seed Ms. Elizabeth.
Oh.
This is interesting.
Oh, wow.
This is it's not really tricky because I think I know who's going to move on. But okay, let's talk about Ms. Elizabeth. One of the best like like wrestling personalities that wasn't a wrestler.
Yeah.
Honestly, like.
And like, I don't think Macho Man would have been like as interesting storyline wise, like without Miss Elizabeth. Like some of like the greatest moments of Macho Man's career had to do with Miss Elizabeth and winning her back.
Yeah, like she, the only people she was ever involved with were Macho Man and Hulk Hogan, and like she did like on the Sportster. The funny thing is on the Sportster, the photo of her is when she then went to WCW and she joined the NWO.
Oh yeah, so random.
But like it's just the fact that she was like, she is one of the most famous women's personalities in wrestling. Yeah. And, you know, it is of a time where it wasn't necessarily because of her talent. You know, it is, she's a pretty face, but she's with Macho Man. And like they were the face, like perfect couple.
Yeah.
So and I don't know, for her, it's that, she is just, it's such a weird thing because it's not really like that she did a lot of promos. It's not really that she she didn't really wrestle. It was just that she was an important figure in Randy Savage and Hulk Hogan's careers.
Yeah. And like, just like the storytelling, she was such a big part of like Randy Savage, like, you know, his whole arc as a character. Like,
I guess it is kind of the thing though, you look back and it's one of those things of like, that was a different time in wrestling, because now you look at it and you go, that is horrible.
Right. Yeah.
She was just a pretty face. She was just there to be next to him and kind of be the damsel in distress or whatever. But like at the same time, she was in an era where she was one of the women that was in front of everyone and the one that everyone knew, because the women's wrestlers weren't getting too much exposure. Yeah. And so she was there front and center in front, like as like the women's representation. At least she was there for women to be in wrestling. Right.
Even if it's like to be used mostly as a plot device. Mm-hmm. However, she is like iconic. Yeah. Miss Elizabeth. Yeah, that's, and like she was only a manager as well. Right. Like,
yeah.
So,
but she's going against one of the greatest characters, in my opinion, in wrestling. Yeah. Paul Bearer.
So this is where the scale tips, I think, because like the character is so compelling, and I don't think Undertaker is as interesting or as like mysterious without Paul Bearer.
No, Paul Bearer is. It's hard to describe Paul Bearer because, you know, it's yeah, sure, he was only really involved in Undertaker, Kane, kind of McFoley, like that whole feud, like when a lot of that was going on. Yeah. But I mean, such a memorable character.
His voice. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Ooh.
I mean, the urn, just the urn. Everything about him. Didn't really ever have to. No, he did cut promos, and that's where the weird voice came in. Yeah. but just an interesting side presence to the Undertaker and to Kane and everything, and like just how those characters played off against each other, where you have like these two giants and then you have this short pudgy little dude wearing white makeup with black like highlights in a suit, and he's just walking around with an urn and telling the Undertaker what to do. And then just all the family story that went along in there eventually, and like, friggin', what was it, 2000? I forget the year, where Undertaker buried him in cement.
You're right.
And that was like the last appearance of Paul Bearer before he sadly passed away.
Oh, man,
and then friggin' the CM Punk has to ruin it by bringing that into the storyline with CM Punk versus Undertaker, where like they bring back the urn and they like dump out all the ashes and say, "This is Paul Bearer." Ooh, it's like, that's nope. But his legacy.
Oh,
I don't know. Like, what do you think?
Oh man, I think like
I'm doing a lot of talking in this episode.
Well, I think you're more familiar with the older Thangs than I am, but I think this matchup is so interesting because these are both managers that like I think elevated their talent so much that like if Miss Elizabeth didn't exist and if Paul Bearer didn't exist, I don't think we'd care as much about Randy Savage or The Undertaker as much. But I think the tipping point is like how memorable and how committed the manager was and to their character specifically. I'm sorry they didn't give Miss Elizabeth more of a character, but like you can't ignore Paul Bearer. Like that guy it's iconic.
You
truly.
Can't. The thing about Miss Elizabeth is that you can't picture. Hold on a second. Okay, good. Sorry, I was just double checking something. What was I gonna say? Hold on a second. I just need to double check something. Okay, good. Sorry. You can't. What was I gonna say? You can't. With Miss Elizabeth, you can't think about the Macho Man versus Hulk Hogan storyline and not have her in that picture. Yeah. Like you can't think about that feud and not remember Miss Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Like that's a big thing. And you can't think, I mean, Macho Man's career spanned a long time and he did a lot of different things. But I think when people think about Macho Man Randy Savage, they do immediately remember Miss Elizabeth because she was there for a majority of the time and she was an integral part of his character.
Yeah, and all of his storylines like early on.
Yeah.
I gotta give it to my guy Paul Bearer though.
Yeah, I think Paul Bearer too. Mostly just because like in terms of like, yes, both characters, Macho Man and Undertaker, a very important part of them was their managers.
Yeah.
But I think that Paul Bearer as a character is more interesting, as a manager is more interesting, and just how a part of the Undertaker story was more interesting.
Yeah. Like, I think Miss Elizabeth was a part of Macho Man's like really big moments, but I think like the character of the Undertaker doesn't truly exist the way we know and love it without Paul Bearer. So it's
exactly.
You must advance the Paul Bearer.
Alrighty. Our last first round match. Yes. This will be interesting.
Okay.
And then we'll probably the next couple rounds might be a bit more difficult, but I think that this is a good one. Number 7 seed Paul Ellering.
Yeah.
Versus number 2 Paul Heyman.
How many Pauls are going to be in this bracket?
We've had 2 Jims.
2 Jims. 3 Pauls.
3 Pauls, you know. All right.
All right.
Paul Ellering versus Paul Heyman. I mean, what can we say about Paul Heyman? What can't we say about Paul Heyman?
My client.
He, you know, it's just the fact of like, yeah, he created ECW, which is crazy and cool. but then that he made his way into the WWE and then was, I mean, the thing I'll say about Paul Heyman as a manager, the wrestling world refers to people as Paul Heyman guys.
Yeah, Heyman guys.
You know, like there are Heyman guys because it's a stamp of approval that you get pushed and you get managed by Paul Heyman, which means that you're probably going to be a big deal.
Star. Yeah.
And I mean, you can list off, you know, Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
CM Punk. Right now, Roman Reigns.
Wow.
He even managed Cesaro at one point.
What a surprise that is, right? Like
that was crazy.
Just to think about the current wrestling landscape, especially in WWE on SmackDown. I'm gonna read
a quick article. 14 Paul Heyman guys.
Okay.
14.
Hit him up.
Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, of course. Number
Taz.
1 Paul Heyman guy. Oh, Taz.
Why do I have to hit next on this? I hate that. Cesaro. Rey Mysterio.
Oh.
CM Punk. Rob Van Dam.
Oh, right.
I don't know who Matt Morgan is, but sure. The Miz. Big Show.
Yeah.
Curtis Axel. I remember that. He managed Curtis Axel for like not very long, but it was because it's like, this is Mr. Perfect Son. What the fuck you wanted? What did you think?
I don't remember that.
It was, he got him to win the Intercontinental Championship in 2013.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That was Stone Cold Steve Austin, not in WWE.
WCW. No.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, but he was there alongside of pushing Stone Cold. Like, that's the thing, is when we say the Paul Heyman guys, some of these are like behind the scenes, in front of the scenes.
Yeah. Like some were not direct managers.
Fucking Heidenreich. Do you remember who Heidenreich is?
No.
He was like a early 2000s Psycho Sid kind of character, but he joined the Road Warriors at one point. Mick Foley, and then and Undertaker. Undertaker was a Paul Heyman guy at one point. But yeah, it's like, you know, I think Paul Heyman is a better Jim Cornette. Where he did a ton of stuff behind the scenes, but you remember Paul Heyman as a manager.
Yeah.
Because
he's been on screen for the last, what seems like decade.
20 years.
Yeah. But like he's been involved in like every single like main title picture because of his client.
Yeah. I mean, the most memorable are Brock Lesnar, CM Punk, and now Roman Reigns. And like, it just, he's one of the best mouthpieces in the business. If you do a list of like the best people, best promo, like, talents in wrestling, Paul Heyman is one.
He's up there for sure. Yeah.
And then we got Paul Ellering. We just gave Paul Heyman a 3-pointer, and now we're gonna try to Paul Ellering is an underrated, I will say. Very underrated.
An underrated manager. So can you tell me who else he managed other than AOP? Because like that's just what I'm familiar with, is like him managing AOP. What he is most known for was managing the Road Warriors. Right. Okay. There we go.
Yeah, he was most notable for managing the Road Warriors. He was on the Indies for a long time, and then he came in with Hawk and Animal. Road Warriors. And he was just like, in NXT, he was very good. And then sadly, when they got up to the main roster and he got dumped, I feel really bad for him, but he is a bit older now. So I'm not too sure what.
And then AOP got dumped from the WWE. So, hey.
But no, like him managing the Road Warriors was like, you can't, I mean, it's tough now because I think people might think of the Road Warriors, and it's actually sad because Animal passed away pretty recently.
Right, R.I.P.
But I suggest people go and watch the Road Warriors Dark Side of the Ring episode because it's really interesting. Because they interview Paul Ellering and Animal. I think his real name is John Laurinaitis. And they have a lot of stock footage of, I forget the name of Hawk, the real name of Hawk. So, but their rise, because in the 80s, I think it was, in the 80s or early 90s, Road Warriors was one of the most famous tag teams in all of wrestling.
Yeah, they're definitely like super memorable, and like I can think about like their ring gear and their face paint and stuff, and it's like, oh yeah. But I definitely didn't watch them much. And
he was an integral part of that because they didn't really talk. He was the talker for them. He was the talker for them. Like they did a little bit, but like it was always just this image of like, you got these two giant jack dudes in football gear with spikes on it and weird face paint. And then you have this smaller guy dressed totally in black with sunglasses on. And he was this, I mean, he can cut, if you just look up Paul Ellering promos, they're great. But I mean, like, yeah, Road Warriors were huge in terms of, you know, they were one of the first ever like Western acts to get famous in Japan.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Yeah. And so they were a huge deal over there. They were a huge deal here. They didn't make too much of an impact in WWE, but on the indie scene and just in the name of wrestling, they were so well known. But, you know, that's all that Paul Ellering is kind of really famous for, is that, I mean, he did a lot of indie work, but for what people know him as is really just Road Warriors and then AOP.
Right.
So.
The Road Warriors, aka Legion of Doom.
Yes. On the indies, they were known as Road Warriors, and then when they got to WWE, Vince changed the name to Legion of Doom.
Precious Paul Ellering.
Oh yeah, that was his nickname.
All right. I mean, I think this matchup, unfortunately, is a little more heavy-handed, leaning to one side than the other.
For sure. It's definitely Paul Heyman.
Yeah.
But shout out to Paul Ellering.
Yeah, shout out.
All right, Paul Heyman moves on. All right, we're in the semifinals. We got 3 more matchups.
Mamma mia.
Going back. Number 1 seed, Bobby the Brain Heenan versus Jimmy Hart. So we already kind of talked about, like, this is where we're probably going to speed through some of this, but, like, we already kind of talked about them. But, like, you know, these are 2 old school dudes. It's actually funny. We got 2 old school dudes versus 2 kind of newer school on each side. So, like, this matchup is Bobby Heenan versus Jimmy Hart, and then the next one is Paul Bearer versus Paul Heyman.
The battle of the Pauls again in another round.
And then we're gonna have like old school versus new school, which is interesting. But
right,
you know, like I would say these 2, in my opinion, that's tough. They're both so memorable.
Did these guys interact much?
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure. I think Bobby Heenan might have been. Actually, no. Maybe. Possibly. Oh yeah, maybe because actually probably because I mean they both were around Hulk Hogan's time. So and also yeah, oh yeah, I might have been well, the other thing too is that they've both flip-flop being like heel manager. Actually no, Bobby the Brain was always heel.
Yeah.
Jimmy Hart flip-flop between like heel and face manager. Like he managed Hulk Hogan and then he managed King Kong Bundy, Greg the Valentine, Greg the Hammer Valentine, Hart Foundation. So kind of back and forth. They definitely interacted. I imagine so. Yeah, for sure.
I'm trying to think like how I advance to dudes that I know not a ton of about.
I mean, it's you gotta look. I think you gotta look back and maybe look at their impact, like in terms of these are two guys that like kind of were, I guess, cornerstones of what a on-screen manager presence is like. And so you think about it, without Bobby the Brain Heenan, we probably wouldn't have Paul Heyman.
Okay.
Because you look at those two characters and you're like, they're kind of the same in some ways.
Yeah, they are similar. Yeah, definitely.
Like Bobby the Brain Heenan is probably a bit more chicken shit than Paul Heyman. But at the same time, they are both like the kind of like, this is my guy. He's going to kick your ass. He's the biggest, baddest person. Yeah. And pushing him. And then also just like all of the other talents that Bobby Heenan had of, yeah, he did commentary. He did do all this other stuff. And, you know, that's because he was a good talker. While someone like Jimmy Hart maybe is more of a personality. Yeah. Yeah. What do you think?
Well, let me think here. Like, yeah, like you were saying with like the impact and with sort of the legacy, like Bobby the Brain Heenan for sure has like sort of a hand in creating what we now know as like a manager. And also, yeah, like you were saying with his other talents, like I think that kind of puts him over.
I mean, Jimmy Hart, I think, it's hard because I don't think that Jimmy Hart ever like, I can see where the evolution of a character like Bobby Heenan then inspired other characters. Jimmy Hart, I can see where he did, but he's very like, no one else is like Jimmy Hart.
Yeah, I suppose like the one of a kindness is very important to consider here as well. That, yeah, and I guess this is something that we'll probably talk about in the next matchup too, because it's kind of like similar in the way that like it's this big character versus somebody with like just massive accomplishments and like a crazy resume of achievements and things like that. So very interesting here. I mean, I'd probably go with the Brain because of all the people that he worked with.
Yeah, these top four are like pinnacle general managers.
Yeah, are just it's tough.
I would go with the Brain. I mean, there's a reason why he's regarded as the greatest. But yeah, Jimmy Hart is just one of those things. It's like, yeah, he's a character. Yeah. And like, I think I'm trying to think of what other like character managers can you think of? Like, I can think of Jimmy Hart. I can think of Paul Bearer.
Was Lana a character manager? I guess Lana.
No. And that's the other thing too, is there are some managers, like I would, if I was comparing like Lana to Selena Vega is a manager. Lana is a what they call
valet, I guess.
Valet. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess. But I mean, when Rusev like first started to appear, she was more of a manager than a valet, but then gradually it would just like kind of
agree.
shifted more so to her like not being as actively involved with his booking and stuff.
Yeah.
Because I remember like when Rusev first came up or was first appearing, like she would be like crush, and then Rusev would do like his finishing moves.
It's like in terms of character managers, I mean, the people that stand out to me, I'm just trying to even think of past couple of. That's hard. Is
Alberto Del Rio's manager a character manager? He's kind of like that. I don't even know what his name is.
Do you remember Umaga's manager?
Umaga had a manager?
Yeah. He was the dude that had the giant Cuban cigar.
Oh, Armando Estrada.
Yeah.
That's a character. Does Jillian Hall count as a
I
manager
remember
too?
that.
Like a character manager?
I
think she does.
That was for JBL, right? Yeah. Okay. Wow. My God. Yeah, it's hard to say what is like a character. I would say a character is that you act not like a normal person at all.
Right.
Where it's like you're super like larger than life and it's you very much stick to one thing. So I don't know. Yeah, I can't really think if you can think of any other good character like managers, please let us know on in the comments or on social media and stuff.
As we rack our brains to actively stall from advancing this.
No,
this
but
matchup.
I think we both agree that it's Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Yeah, definitely.
Just talents, accomplishments.
Yeah.
People they worked with, elevating, being a manager, all that stuff.
Yeah.
This is equally going to be a tricky matchup because we got Paul Bearer versus Paul Heyman.
Oh, man.
It's tough because it's the exact same thing of like you have a larger than life character who is essential to one of the most famous wrestlers ever. And without that manager, that character would be, it's hard to think of The Undertaker
without Paul
Bearer, even though half of his career he wasn't with Paul Bearer. But like that first half is so important.
Yeah.
And
well, it's also like Brock Lesnar too, man. Like if you think about
that's 100% true.
Like Paul Heyman without Brock Lesnar would be like just like this big guy who was like
I can't even think of Brock Lesnar without Paul Heyman. Like that's the thing. I can think of CM Punk without Paul Heyman. I can think of Roman Reigns without Paul Heyman. I can think of all these other guys without Paul Heyman, but Brock is nothing without Paul.
Yeah. Has he always been with him? Like I'm just trying to remember like his like Brock Lesnar's like early run.
Yeah, basically. Or Brock came in and was by himself a little bit, but then they strapped a rocket to him when Paul managed him. That's how he then became, at the time, the youngest world champion ever.
Right.
And that's where he beat The Rock. He beat Kurt Angle. Like, they're like, they put Paul Heyman on him and then just boom. And people over the years have been like, Brock Lesnar. Yay, Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar. But honestly, I think ever since he first came in, he's always been top tier.
Yeah, I guess like the one consistent thing is like even if you don't love Brock Lesnar, like it's always like a joy to see Paul Heyman back or like to see him meddling in the affairs. Like I'm never tired of Paul Heyman, but I could get tired of like, spamming F5s.
But I mean, that's the thing is then when Brock went away, he would just go and pick a new guy.
Yeah.
He went to CM Punk and then that was the entirety of CM Punk versus The Undertaker which is a very, well-known, famous feud. Mm-hmm. And then you have, now you have him with Roman Reigns, and it's like,
which is like such an incredible storyline.
It's so good, and Paul is not even like what I love about this current storyline is that Paul's not even that important.
Yeah,
but he's there, and the fact that he's like kind of scared, that he's kind of scared of Roman, and he's kind of like he's still a mouthpiece there, but he's really like he's really pushing how terrifying Roman is right now. And I swear that Roman's going to do something crazy and like destructive and destroy someone soon. And
I mean, he basically did at Clash of Champions, right?
He kind of did, but I think
against Jay.
I think at Hell in a Cell it's going to be worse. Oh. But that's the thing, and like Paul is there not to like just hype like he did with Brock, but instead he's there and he's like kind of. It's such a shifting character, which is interesting, Instead of being this confident in your face, like I'm telling you everything you need to know, you stupid audience, all this stuff. He's like, guys, he's scary.
The tribal chief. Okay, so maybe that actually
it's so tough because it's this is the toughest one, honestly, because it's you have. I mean, all this stuff.
But I think what you just said,
Paul Bearer,
Yeah, but I think what you just said gave me a lot of clarity in terms of making the decision, because if you look at Paul Bearer, like he really only worked with Undertaker and Kane, and Mankind kind of, but like
we're deciding who's the greatest.
But with Paul Heyman, it's like he, like you were saying, like he's adapted to the different people that he's paired with, right? And he changes his managerial style, which is very compelling and interesting. Whereas like Paul Bearer is very awesome, but very one note if you think about it.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think Paul Heyman is the guy. I'm a Heyman guy.
I'm a Heyman guy. We should make a shirt. I'm a Heyman guy.
I'm a Heyman guy.
All right. Yep. I gotta give it to Paul Heyman.
Yeah, man.
You're right. Just the fact that he has been able to work with a bunch of different people, and all the people that he's worked with have basically been stars.
Yeah, he really elevates talent like no other. When he picks someone and he really wants to push them, they get pushed. It's sad then when you have someone that's like, a Cesaro, where Paul Heyman was super behind Cesaro and everyone loves Cesaro and everybody wants the best for Cesaro. But then like WWE kind of goes like, you're more of a good hand than a world champion. Because you have a funny accent. Anyway. Yeah. Oh. Cesaro for world champ. Come on, people. Yeah, everybody. We love Cesaro. I met him one time in a parking lot, and I was like, "Hey, man, are you Cesaro?" And he's like, "No, I just look like him." It's definitely him.
That's great. That's awesome.
I was in Edmonton at the time, and me and my buddy Kevin went to see Hercules, like the Rock version of Hercules. And I guess like WWE was in town doing like a house show. And sitting in the front row was Cesaro. And I was like, "Hey, Kevin, is that Cesaro?" And he was like, "Yeah, that's definitely him." Funny. Yeah.
All right, we're at our final.
Okay.
Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Yeah.
Versus Paul Heyman.
This is tough. I mean,
this is very like golden era versus current
now. Era. Yeah. Well, I'm a Heyman guy. I will stand by that.
I'm a Heyman guy.
I mean, but like I guess it's like chicken or the egg, right? Like it's like this without this man, like Bobby the Brain, there probably wouldn't be Paul Heyman.
There's a reason why he was called the Brain.
Yeah.
Like, that's the reason why he got that nickname, is because he was one of the smartest, considered to be one of the smartest guys. And I mean, you know how we said, like, you know, you think about Hulk Hogan versus Randy Savage, and Miss Elizabeth has to be there.
Yeah.
You think about Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant, he has to be there. Maybe not to a lot of people. Maybe people, like general fans might go, oh yeah, Hulk Hogan slammed Andre the Giant. Woo. But like, if you're a wrestling fan, he was the guy.
Yeah. And like that match wouldn't have been as monumental if Bobby the Brain Heenan didn't help like build up Andre the Giant so much, right? Like to make him the beast that he was known to be.
This is tough.
I don't like this one because
it's like, well, let's talk about, how about this? Let's break it down into subjects. Okay.
Sure.
Style.
Yeah.
Basically the same style. You know,
yes.
Like I would say more that Bobby the Brain Heenan was more of like what I keep saying is a chicken shit heel, where he has a big mouth, he talks a lot of game, and then as soon as you try to confront him, he starts backpedaling. Which kind of, Paul Heyman kind of has that same style. You know?
Yeah. Because he talks a big game, and then like without Brock being there or something, he would just cower. Like he's like, ah.
But I mean, Paul Heyman's style, like what would you classify his managerial style as?
Well, it kind of depends who he's with, right? Like if it's Brock Lesnar, then his managerial style is like, I wouldn't say it's like controlling, but it's, he actively is meddling in affairs and booking, and seems like he is manipulating results some way, somehow to get the best possible matchups for Brock.
And I mean, and with Brock, I mean, he does all the talking.
Yeah.
You know, Brock barely is ever like, there was that one moment in time where it looked like they were finally going to part ways.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
But like, yeah, when I think about Paul Heyman and Brock, I think Brock is the muscle and Paul Heyman's the mouth.
And the brain in a sense, right?
I mean, yeah, literally.
Oh, yeah. Because like he pretty much just put Brock in places to succeed or like to dominate.
But then with any of his other ones, I mean, with CM Punk, like they are both, you say who's the best talkers in wrestling? They're both up there. Like CM Punk is a good talker. It's not that he could never talk.
Oh yeah.
But I think with Paul Heyman, it was just this kind of like nefarious duo kind of like let's put our two brains together and let's do some like evil shit.
Yeah. That's kind of like Roman Reigns too, right? Like with Roman Reigns, like I think Roman is probably not as good of a promo as CM Punk or Paul Heyman, but just like kind of the nature of them being together is like, oh boy, like what are these guys cooking up? Yeah,
well, because Paul Heyman, I would classify Paul Heyman's style as like he pushes the big guys who are going to dominate. Like that's his thing, is he's like, this guy will dominate, and whether it's because of strength or just smarts, mostly it's always been strength. Because you think of even like Cesaro, it's like, well, yeah, because look at Cesaro.
He's a specimen.
They call him they call him Superman for a reason.
The Swiss cyborg.
So but then you look at CM Punk and it's like, well, you know, CM Punk's not a jack dude. He's not like, that's not his style, but he's smart. And Paul Heyman is smart. So that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
I guess then another thing that we can use as a point is like, what about people? Like who they represented? Who is bigger? So with Paul Heyman, the biggest ones that we can name are Brock, Roman,
And
CM Punk.
Yeah.
With Bobby the Brain Heenan, we got Andre the Giant. Hold on. We got Andre the Giant. There's more. I know there's more. Oh, Mr. Perfect.
Yes.
That was another probably big one. King Kong Bundy. Well, he had the Heenan family stable. So, yeah.
I mean, if we're just going literal size, then I suppose the Brain wins.
Well, I would say, this is what I would say. I'd say Andre the Giant, Brock, CM Punk, Roman Reigns, Mr. Perfect. Like, that's how I would say that, like, Andre is at the top in terms of, like, who you manage as a star.
Yeah.
Everyone knows Andre the Giant.
Yeah. Well, I think it's like, yeah, Andre the Giant, and I think like Mr. Perfect and Brock Lesnar are like pretty close.
Well, in terms of wrestlers, yes, but in terms of like managing wrestlers,
oh yeah,
you know, like
it would be like,
yeah. I think in terms of like, oh yeah, Bobby the Brain Heenan and he managed Mr. Perfect. It's like, is that more known than Paul Heyman managing Brock Lesnar?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Not to a filthy casual like myself. Oh my God. Yeah, I don't know. Andre the Giant though, it's just, yeah. And the thing about it is like he built him up too, right? Like that relationship is very integral to what we know and love as Andre the Giant. Whereas like maybe that can be argued with Brock Lesnar as well, but like I just think that Andre the Giant is like, he transcends wrestling. He is like such a notable figure. Anybody want a peanut?
Anybody want a peanut? This is tricky.
I'd probably give that to the Brain, just because obviously the sheer amount of superstars and wrestlers that he worked with versus Paul Heyman's like, yeah, like sure, like ECW, and like you could consider him working with those people, but like as a manager, it's like really only like 3 dudes that were in like big notable feuds and stuff like that.
This is tough.
Yeah. Like it would be easy to just agree with the list and be like, yeah, of course Bobby the Brain Heenan is the best. But I mean, for me, I think
it is also, I will also say it, part of it might be our age.
Yeah.
And the era that we grew up in Paul Heyman era.
Yeah. Like
Bobby
I said,
I'm
a Heyman guy.
I'm a Heyman.
I'm a Heyman guy.
In terms of preference, my personal preference, I have to go with Paul Heyman. But I think that for me, the reason why I go with Paul Heyman is just because Bobby the Brain Heenan, classic, couldn't be where we are today of managers without him.
Yeah.
But Heyman has changed the game, has elevated what it means to be a manager. You know, and when I think of managers, I immediately go to Heyman. You know, there's certain figures that you immediately go to, and one of them for me is always Heyman for Brock. But then you think about all the other people. You think about the fact that this person's a Heyman guy. Who's the next Heyman guy? Because that's what the industry looks at, is like, who does he manage is important.
Yeah, yeah.
And you look you do look back at Bobby the Brain Heenan, and you're like, that, yes, integral, important, an important figure in wrestling altogether, not just as a manager. He did commentary. Mm-hmm. I mean, him and like from all the old matches that I've seen, him and Gorilla Monsoon as commentators was like is one of the classic pairings. Like, I think for that generation, like for what, like my perfect pairing, I mean, the commentary team of my generation growing up was Jerry the King Lawler and JR.
Yeah.
You know, and you had the color commentator and then the personality that was a heel. That was that generation. Gorilla Monsoon was the color commentator and Bobby the Brain Heenan was the character.
Yeah.
And I don't think we'd be where we are without Bobby the Brain, but in terms of who I think is the greatest manager of all time,
Vicky Guerrero.
Oh man.
No, I think I agree with you, man, because like, well, first and foremost, it's a recency bias, I think, for us, because it's like when I really started to get into wrestling is when Brock kind of first appeared in the WWE, and he had Paul Heyman, and like getting back into wrestling over the years, like Paul Heyman's been involved in that main title. Oh, damn it.
Excuse you.
What was I gonna say? Blah, blah, blah. But like coming back to being a wrestling fan in like the 2000s, like Paul Heyman's been involved in like every title feud because Brock as well. So it's like I think I have to give it to him. And like you were saying, people speculate like when new people join the company, whether that be in NXT or if they're getting called up to main roster, they often say like, oh, like why not pair them with Paul Heyman? Because he's just like such an important piece to somebody becoming a star, especially if he can't talk. Like imagine like if like I hate to shade this wrestler, but imagine if Ricochet came in with Paul Heyman. Like that would be crazy.
That'd be awesome.
Because you could be like Paul Heyman could be like, this is like a generational athlete. You've never seen a man like this, defies gravity. But not only that, he is the strongest competitor, most fearsome.
He's a real life superhero.
Yeah, a real life superhero. Ricochet. Like that would be crazy, right? And also like when Shayna Baszler got called up, people were like, oh man,
that would have been perfect.
Man. Yeah, so like just the fact that people speculate and pair him fantasy booking wise, like what we do here at Book of Vince, with him as a manager, like I think that speaks just it just speaks multiple platitudes, and it really makes you think like, oh yeah, this guy is the best manager right now. And that's my rant.
Made me actually wonder, I looked it up, has Paul Heyman ever managed a female wrestler? And the only one I can see is, let's see, led me to a Quora page.
Oh, of course,
Quora. Has Paul Heyman ever managed female wrestlers? There's only one female wrestler on record that Heyman personally managed. Back in the 80s in WCW, he worked as Paul E. Dangerously.
Paulie Dangerously.
Managing a stable of overlooked and underutilized wrestlers called the Dangerous Alliance. This group was a murderer's row of elite talent, ravishing Rick Rude as the centerpiece. Yeah. But the lineup also included Four Horsemen founder Arn Anderson, old school legend Larry Zbyszko, tag team specialist Bobby Eaton, Freebird Michael Hayes, and stunning Stone Cold Steve Austin. Or what he was known at the time was Stunning Steve Austin.
Yeah. Wait, but where's the female wrestler?
But the group had one female member, Alundra Blaze.
Oh, shit. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's super old school WCW.
That's Polly Dangerously.
That's such a weird group of people.
Yeah.
Arn Anderson, Steve Austin, Rick Rude is the centerpiece.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Alundra Blaze. That's such a weird group of people. That's so funny.
That is so bizarre. But yeah, man, to bring it back, Paul Heyman. Obviously, no disrespect to Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Of course.
He is the
cornerstone.
GOAT. Yeah, but we gotta go with Paul because we are Heyman guys.
We are Heyman guys.
Here we are here at Book of Vince. We are Heyman guys.
All right. Well, there we go. So that is our bracket. Wow. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is there's certain people that, like, you look at those lists and you're like, there's a reason why these guys are, and then it just comes down to preference, honestly. Like I looked at like 5 different lists, and the top 4 were pretty much the exact same every single time. But, shout outs to, like, there's not too many current managers that, like, stick out in my mind. Mm-hmm. But, like, I got to give probably my biggest shout out is to Selena Vega, because I think that she is probably one of the best managers in wrestling in the last,
little while here. Yeah.
And
it sucks. It sucks that she probably, like, won't get to manage because we don't know what the hell is going on with her storyline. So, like,
right now it's weird. But I mean, you look at her history with Andrade and, like, and NXT.
She really elevated him for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the only other managers that are active right now in, like, AEW are Arn and Tully.
Yeah. And Eddie Kingston's he's kind of a manager too.
Kind of. And then also Jake the Snake. But I mean,
right.
I'm uncomfortable every single time I see Lance Archer and Jake the Snake, because he's beating people up and then he rips off Jake's shirt to, what do you have written on the back of it? Everybody's going to die or something like that. That was weird. That made me uncomfortable. I didn't want to see Jake the Snake's naked chest and back.
Yeah, he's weird right now. Yeah. Very strange.
But, like, yeah, you have these old school dudes where it's like, yeah, help these up and comers, but, like, you need, like, just a manager, just like a new presence.
Yeah.
So I think they need to I think they need to take really talented promo people and just put them as managers.
Yeah, I mean,
there's a lot of really talented talkers out there who could probably get a lot further in their career just by...
Okay. I forgot about this guy. This is a very important guy right now. He is a part of this yellow and black brand, Robert Stone.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, man. The Rob Stone brand. On top of being a Heyman guy, I'm also a Rob Stone guy.
I will say it's funny.
Yeah, it's funny. It's hilarious.
But it's also funny that they can't keep a single member.
Yeah, except for Aaliyah. She's always going to be a Robert Stone guy.
Would you consider MVP a manager right now?
Yeah, I guess he's a manager.
I mean, it's more of a stable.
Yeah, but he wrestles though.
The hurt business.
Like so that kind of is a gray area. But he does do a lot of talking and meddling, and he's been really good. Man, shout out to MVP.
Oh, I know. Yeah, the hurt business has been great. Honestly,
better than Retribution for sure.
Oh,
what's your Retribution name, Marty?
Oh, I haven't done that yet. What is it? What? Okay, so there we go. That's our bracket. Let's end it off on this. Okay. So that was our bracket. We decide that was it. We said Paul Heyman is the greatest wrestling manager of all time. If you think it should have been someone else, or if you think that the bracket should have been different, or you have your favorite wrestling manager of all time, please let us know on social media or in the comments of the podcast, and let us know.
Yeah, if you disagree, my client will F5 you.
This is a spoiler. So, we are running low on questions for the podcast. So please go and submit your questions to the podcast. It can literally be anything about wrestling. On our website, UnknownErrorFilms.com/bookevents. We also ask them on our Facebook page, on Twitter, on Instagram, and you can follow all those by searching at UE_films. That is our username on all those platforms. So I guess the question of this week is, because we're running out of time, what is your retribution name?
Yeah, what is your retribution name, Marty?
Let's see. Oh no, that's not what I wanted. Damn it. Where is it? Where was it? Do you have a link to the thing? Because I never took it.
Let me see if I can find it.
What's yours? Did you do yours?
Yeah, I am. I think I'm Pole Cannon.
Pole Cannon?
Pole Cannon.
My God.
Yeah, pretty dumb. Pole Cannon. Okay, let me see if I can find it here. It's got to be in my
because I saw it going around and I didn't.
I sent it to your Facebook.
Okay.
So check it out.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. So yeah, because
I saw this going around and I saw it as a photo, but I wasn't too sure what. Okay, wait. So your retribution name is your birthday month plus day of birth.
Yeah.
Okay. January 27th.
Oh man, I can't wait for this.
Push chain. What the fuck? Push chain. Push, punch, kick, throw, slam, bash, toss, swing, pull, chop, strike, mash.
Push chain.
Push chain.
Push chain and Pole Cannon, your hosts of Book and Vince, a wrestling dream match podcast.
I want a taser.
You think I want a pole cannon?
Pole cannon.
Pull cannon.
Pole cannon. What in the world? Pole cannon and push and pull. That's our tag team. Push and pull.
Push and pull. The tag team. We're like the retribution jobbers. We're the guys that just like run around and and break stuff.
If we're the retribution equivalent to John Silver and Alex Reynolds in Dark Order, I'm okay with that.
Oh, John Silver is a national treasure.
He is.
Of both nations of North America. He's a North American treasure.
They are great. They are so good.
He's fantastic.
All right. Well then, I guess let's see. We would do a match recommendation. Also, please tell us your retribution names. Yeah. Please. I should retweet that thing and go. That's what I'll do. I'll tweet that photo and I'll have our names in there.
Yeah, definitely.
Our retribution names. Normally we do a match recommendation, but this has been kind of like a neutral one. Usually we go back and forth. Mm-hmm. So let's come up with one together.
Sure.
For a match recommendation. So let's see. Should we do one that's associated with? I would honestly, if we're going to go based off of like managers and stuff, Paul Heyman.
Yeah.
What's a really good Paul Heyman moment match? I mean, Brock beating the Streak and Paul's face is hilarious.
Yeah, I think Brock versus the Streak is probably the match we have to go with.
It's just so classic of just Paul just being like,
Yeah. And bonus content would be watching Brock Lesnar during his Money in the Bank run where he has the boombox and when he's dancing and Paul Heyman is just like
the Brock party.
The Brock
that was
party.
So as much as everyone hated that he just came in and got Money in the Bank, the fact that they did that was so funny. The fact that
I think Brock had a fantastic time with that.
Let's just have Brock fuck around with the briefcase and act like a dick. It's so good.
Yeah, man. That's
All
it.
right, so our match recommendation is Brock Lesnar versus Undertaker. Brock versus The Streak.
Hell yeah.
That's a good one. All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening. If you enjoyed what we do here again, please subscribe or follow to the podcast, whatever platform that you listen to. Make sure to follow us on social media because you can catch all of the different stuff that we are doing online, some streaming, some content creation. Like we said at the beginning, we did this episode because it's to promote a new series that's coming out on our YouTube channel, Bracketeers Season 2, where we're deciding what is the greatest N64 game of all time. So be sure to check that out when it comes out. So follow UnknownError everywhere at UE_films. And you can follow myself online, Twitter and Instagram at Barton_Minute. And you can follow Mr. Anthony Hall
at Hall and Jokes on Instagram and Twitter.
But yeah, thank you very much for listening. Stay safe out there. We'll see you next time. See you sweet.
Yeah! Yeah!